Okay. Eric asks, this is Eric of One Solution.
It is. Yeah.
Hello, Eric.
Hello.
He's got several questions. Do you want me to read them all and you can address them all, or
Sure.
kind of like we do with them, Nick? Okay. What was something you've seen or experienced that was the same across all the legs so far, and what was different or more dynamic each time? That's one. What's been your lowest moment so far? Are there any kinks that happened as a team that are now smooth? And if so, how did you collectively do that? And we've already talked about this a little bit, right? How is your body dealing with all of this?
Yeah. So my body is a little beaten up, but uh, you know, some downtime in Vietnam, a couple of massages, some ice packs, and I expect to be good to go next week. So that one, let's deal with that one first. Otherwise, my body actually been handling everything really well. So that's hopefully continues. Um, the kinks with the team, I think we've talked quite a bit about that topic from the perspective that I think that the major kinks that happened earlier in the race were with bringing new people in and having them feel part of the team and not just sort of an add-on to the core group.
Mm,
And I think that, the big thing that we've learned is how to integrate and involve them right away, as equals,
mm,
and to use their new perspectives to help us grow and get better. Right. So I think that of all the kinks that we've had, that that was probably the most significant one, and that has evolved and become much probably one of our strengths now, I would say, is how we integrate people.
mm,
Um, what has stayed the same is a fascinating question.
mm,
Um, I would say what has stayed the same is everybody's wonder with nature,
mm.
with the and with the dolphins and the whales and the birds. Like, you'd see maybe dolphins every 2 or 3 days, probably, most of the time, and you think that would get old, but it doesn't. It
Doesn't
never
get
gets
it.
old. No, no. I would sit there and watch them for hours as they play off the boat, and it's cool because we see them coming oftentimes, like they're coming in a big pod, and they're coming towards us from having somehow sensed that we were, passing by, and as soon as we see them, like, jumping and swimming towards us, and then as soon as they get to the boat, they all turn and align with the boat and swim along
Wow.
with us for oftentimes a couple of hours. They'll stay there and just play, and you can see them just playing in the current that the boat creates and the waves that the boat creates, and you swear they're putting on a show for us. So
You're like
yeah,
fellow travelers.
definitely, yeah.
Wow.
And the birds, we're always, Mike's a big bird watcher, so he loves to try to spot and identify the specific species of bird. So we're always on the lookout. And then the whales, anytime we see whales, like, everybody will get out of bed and come
Yeah.
scurrying up on deck to see. I think that the appreciation of nature and of the environment that we're in is something that hasn't changed since the start.
Mm,
Hasn't changed for me for sure, but I also don't think it's changed for most people on the boat.
mm.
Um, and sorry, what was the second?
So what was more different or more dynamic each time?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then the other one was what has been your lowest moments so far?
Oh, yeah. The dynamic. Yeah, I'd say that what's been more dynamic is, but all in a sort of pretty positive direction, is our response to challenging situations, or not being at our best performance. And I think I alluded to how we responded in this past race to, on the very first day, within a few hours, we were in last place, and I just felt like something different happened. Like there was no blaming, there's no getting down. Um, Everybody just something just clicked, and people were like, "Nope, this is not how this one's going to play out,"
Yeah.
and we just clicked in. And it sounds like you could even read that in some of Mike's comments, which I don't see Mike's blog, so I don't know what he said. Um, but there was definitely a different energy around all of the crew taking responsibility for getting the most performance out of the boat that we could.
Mm,
And I think that has grown since the start of the race. I think earlier in the race, if we had down moments, people were a little quicker to turn and look for somebody to blame,
mm.
or at the very maybe I'd say it as they were not yet confident to step up and say, no, like
I'm
we can do
choosing how I
better. Like,
experience this. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because maybe they didn't have the confidence that they had the ability themselves to do something about it.
Yeah.
But now they do. And so now there's definitely, like, I think Mike and Lottie would say, there are 16 or 18 people on the boat that feel equally responsible for the performance that we're getting as Mike and Lottie do.
Mm, mm.
And that has evolved since the start of the race.
Wow.
And I think when new people join, that's probably something that they kind of notice right away, is like, wow, like everybody's responsible. It's funny because when we were in last place early in the race, the boat, the first boat that we passed to get out of last place, when we passed them, uh, one of our new crew members was helming the boat as we
Mm.
passed our first boat.
Yep.
And I think, he's a retired doctor from England, probably, well, definitely he'd be the oldest person on the boat. Um, but he was helming the boat as we did our first, and we were passing a boat that was literally right beside us. They were
Wow.
maybe 100 yards away from us, and we were staring at each other.
Yeah.
Um, and it was like a 3-hour process of just creeping up on them and eventually, breaking through and going by. And he was on the helm, and that in itself is a moment that represents a different dynamic,
Mm.
because that shows how integrated the team already was within the first couple of days,
Yeah.
where our new crew were being trusted to helm the boat as we would pass another boat.
Mm.
Um, so that to me is sort of the thing that's been really dynamic and evolution, mainly from a leadership perspective, that we have learned how to be better leaders and better at growing our culture and bringing new people onto our team,
Wow.
um, to the extent that everybody feels part of the performance and feels equal responsibility for it. So that's exciting.
That
I
is,
think,
yeah,
yeah.
really exciting. I want to pause for a moment and celebrate Skipper Mike and also Lottie, the AQP assistant qualified, or no, additional qualified person, which I just think is such a great title, AQP, because so Mike wrote a skipper's log probably back as you were approaching Fremantle, in which he did such a great job of being so grateful for you all, for the crew, for the circumstances
Mm,
that have, caused them to be there, for the wildlife, for all these things. And he basically said, and also I'm seeing a real frustration inside myself because we can do better. What am I doing? Like all these really great
mhm,
reflections about like almost like sort of what needs to change here, but even just seeing that things, being able to, I can't imagine what it's like to be a leader like that. You're leading the boat and the vulnerability to be able to say, here's what's on my mind, here's what's frustrating me, and also just expressing that gratitude for things going right and you all. And
mm,
um and the personality that comes through in their logs and the things that they talk about, like I really love the presence of it and the you really feel like you're taking it to this experience for whatever it is, whether it's a toughie or whether it's, the Pina watch did this and the Colada watch did that, and there was amazing
Yeah,
clairvoyance and
yeah.
oh, a meteor. Oh, a meteor. Did you see that?
Mhm. We did. Well, I didn't see it because I was helming, but the light that came off it was like phenomenal. It was probably like 10 lightning bolts all going off at the same time, the way the sky behind me lit up. Well, the sky all around us lit up. But yes, yeah, we definitely had a meteor sighting just pretty close, somewhere between the Philippines and Vietnam. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I want to just touch on something you said there about that comment Mike made, because, I think he was definitely feeling personally a lot of responsibility for the performance of the boat going into Australia.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that if you were to observe what has changed since then, you wouldn't see a lot different in what his approach or his execution as a skipper has been. Um, Most of the change that's happened has come from the crew um, wanting and sort of setting a higher standard for themselves to get more information from Mike and Lottie about what our what our thoughts are around the tactics and the weather and what our plans are, and taking more sort of like we have all decided to take more responsibility, and
Wow.
that's not against Mike and Lottie. That's just it. It's like I felt this. It's where the anxiety I had early in the race came from. The idea that one person is going to be able to make the boat go faster is why I was feeling anxious, about being the only person with sailing experience.
Yeah.
But the reality is that's not the way it works, right? And even when you're the skipper, you can't make the boat go faster. You can only figure out a way to make the other 18 or 19 people feel more confident that they can make the boat go faster,
Mm.
uh, and give them permission to do so.
Mm.
And that is what has happened, both from him being open to that for sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's always been very open to sharing and teaching and explaining, but it's also come from the crew themselves of wanting that responsibility and seeking that information. And so our growth as a team has come because we are taking more responsibility. We're gathering more information so that we can perform better as a crew.
Mm.
So it's been interesting the way it's evolved. Like we're still not there yet where we feel we've really gotten to what we're fully capable of, but I think we're headed completely in the right direction. And
Mm.
and Mike's approach and Lottie's approach has evolved, and the crew has, in some ways they probably feel like we're pushing for more all the time. We're pushing for more information, more insight,
Mm.
more conversations about what we might do in different situations. Like we all want that now. And I don't think there was, other than myself, there weren't many people that would have felt confident to even ask for that when the race first started.
Mm.
Now it's like you know, everybody that's done the majority of the race now, everybody feels ready to get that information and then act on it.
Wow.
So it's exciting. Yeah, it's exciting.
It is. Yeah, it says a lot about leadership too, I think, and the people coordinating that. What just briefly, I don't know what will come up for you, but Eric also asked, what's been your lowest moment so far?
Yeah. I I haven't had many low moments. So I think probably just the 12 hours or so on this last leg of being stuck in my bunk, not able to, like I tried to get up and go for a walk, and I couldn't even stand. And so just sort of the fear of what, if anybody's had that, when you're back those lower discs, just something seizes up and it's like your legs forget how to work. It's
Mm.
yeah, it was sort of a scary moment and probably low just from the perspective of like, this is definitely not how I want this race to end for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and just sort of going through all the sort of reactions that you have and then realizing most of them are just silly thoughts, that just leave them alone and take care of your back and get some support and some care. And but that was definitely, that 24-hour period was probably the period where I was worried the most about sort of the future of the race for me. But every leg sort of has its ebbs and and tides in terms of like, being, missing communication with, family and loved ones, and then being totally into the race. And then, you know, time is funny on the boat, sometimes the time just flies by and like 10, 12 days will go by like nothing.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden you get starting to get close to shore and you're thinking about, being able to talk to loved ones, have a shower, have a good meal, like whatever. It's like all of a sudden time slows way down and it's like
Mm.
takes forever those last few days. So, but those are not really highs and lows as much as just sort of like observations. But I'd
Yeah.
say personally, it's basically, we've had some people on the boat who were more challenging and didn't have the kind of experience they were really hoping for. But I don't think that really affected me too much. I think that the main one was just my body getting compromised a little bit, worrying about that.
Yeah.
So that's,
Well, oh, comes back to thoughts, right?
yep,
Yeah. Wow.
always.
Amazing. Thank you for the reflections.